Welcome. This is Catholic Discovery 101, a program dedicated to sharing the Catholic faith that we love with all our friends and neighbors here in the Pocatello and Chubbuck community. I'm Diane Nisita, a parishioner at Holy Spirit Catholic Community, and our guest today is Carlos Flores. I can say without exaggeration that Carlos is a layperson who is a true apostle of Jesus Christ. He has been nearly 40 years with the railroad in the state of Idaho, and he's been called to serve his community and his church. And he has consented, and he's a little shy about this, but he has consented to share the highlights of his faith journey with us today, the highs and the lows. Welcome.
Thank you.
Carlos Flores.
Thank you, Diane.
Carlos, I have to tell everybody that the highs and the lows, that Carlos has given me permission to talk about everything that's happened to him, present the whole picture, because he said without the whole picture, the highs and the lows, it wouldn't be an authentic story. So I want you to know ahead of time, I'm not forcing Carlos. He has already consented to tell the story in his own way. Secondly, I usually start out by saying, tell me a little bit about yourself, and then we go into the topic of the day. Carlos suggested to me that it isn't such a good thing to separate the two when it comes to lay apostles, because their lives meld their faith story and their living story. So he's going to mix the two together. Except for one thing, I would like to back up a little and start you with your dad.
Okay.
Because it was through your father at 15 years of age that you and your family came to the U.S. Tell that story.
Yeah, well, my father was born in Wichita Falls, Texas, and at the age of 5 or so, his father, my grandfather, moved back to Mexico. So he lived all his youth and all the way up until he married my mother, and then until 1967 he came back to the United States. So
without his family?
Without the family, yeah.
And he came specifically to?
He came to Aberdeen, Idaho. Aberdeen, and so he was there because we have relatives there that, you know, in the spring of 67, they came and visited us in Mexico, or 66, and they suggested that he should come to the United States. He suffered bronchial asthma, so he could not decide whether the climate was going to be good for his health. So in 67, he decided to come, and he found out that his asthma was really good, and nothing happened to him.
In fact, it was a good place for him to be.
Because the air was drier and things were good. So in 1969, the whole family joined him, with the exception of the two eldest sons, you know, my brother Francisco and Gabriel. They could not come because they were over the age of 21, and they both were married.
And they were married, okay.
Yeah.
And you were how old at this time?
I was 15. You know,
and fluent in English, of course.
Oh, yeah. No, I had no idea, you know, that I was going to have to learn English at age 15, but I was up for the challenge, you know. When we got here, I attended Aberdeen High School. When I went over there to register, they gave me a test. I took the test, and they were going to place me as a 10th grader, and I said, well, would I be able to graduate? They said no, so they moved me back to 9th grade, so I would be able to get all the credits and finish high school. That's
normal. In order to have accumulated enough credits, you have to start in the 9th grade.
Yes.
But what about, I understand you made a deal with yourself.
Well, yeah, I made a deal with myself that, you know, at the first 6 months, I would be able to understand what you said, and at the end of the year, I would be able to speak to you. And I made that deal, mainly because you have to challenge yourself.
Well, what would that be like, to be sitting in a classroom with no English and have teachers spouting away in another language?
Well, until I started really understanding, I was able to pick up a word here and a word there. But I also had a tutor, the tutored me for an hour at the school.
Did the Aberdeen school assign you the tutor, or did you find it?
No, the Aberdeen, the high school assigned me a tutor. Plus, I had another tutor that I also find. His name was Andy Guerra, and he took me under his wing, and we had about an hour every day, 5 days a week, that I went to learn speak the language. Yeah.
What happened with your mother? Did she listen in and learn English too?
No.
Never?
She was too busy. There was 11 of us. So she was too
11,
busy.
okay. Let's talk about how many in the family there were.
7 brothers and 4 sisters. And, so she was busy, and so she couldn't, to this day, she understands English, but he doesn't speak it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. So I know that you joined the railroad. You were accepted into the railroad in 1974. Did you meet?
Yeah.
Did you meet your wife along the way?
Yeah. In 1971, 72, I met my wife when I was working at Lamb Weston, and then we married, and I was asked to come to work for the railroad in 1972. But then I said I couldn't leave my wife and be gone all the time. Because
the job that you were offered wasn't a local job?
No, it was 6 months here, training, and then 6 months on the road, then 6 months on the road the other way. And so I decided that I didn't want that.
Okay, so then I jumped the gun when I said 74, because I know that eventually they call you back.
In 74, they called me back, and then I accepted it.
And what kind of a job was that?
Signalman.
You were
working for the signal department, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I had a little background in electronics in high school, and and I had a home study course in Mexico on electricity and refrigeration, and that helped me out.
I see. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned to me in our interview that railroad workers tend to have a good time when they're off time, and that alcohol comes into it a lot. Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, you have nothing to do when you're on the road, so a lot of the things you do is you spend time visiting the local bars, or right there where you're staying, and so I did that quite a lot, and later on I decided that was enough. Mainly not by me, because I got in too much trouble.
Did you get into trouble?
Yes.
What kind of trouble?
Well, with the law, I got in trouble. I got several DUIs, but I only have one on my record because I had withheld judgments, and I made that. But it was a problem for me. In 1978, I got a call from the lady on my pre-sentence investigation asking me if I had a problem, but that there was a place that I could get help, and that was the Employee Assistance Program for the railroad. So I went to that, and through that, they sent me through. They suggested a lot of things for me to do, and one of them was including going to AA, and I went to AA, and I was able to beat that in my problem with alcohol.
I understand. I remember you said that this process of going through AA and it was significant because you learned many people skills because of that, and that became important to you.
Yes.
As a leader.
Well, that being in AA helped me a lot in knowing how to serve the community, how to serve each other, how to function as a human being again. And the best thing of all is I found a way to come to God again.
A way to come to God again.
Yes.
I was going to say, that your resilience and your people skills are developing along about this time. So now the question is, how has your Catholic faith supported you over the years? I know you moved back to Gooding.
Yeah, first I moved to Gooding. I met Father Guardian over there. He was the pastor there, the priest in Gooding. And then before Father Guardian, we had a Father Cynic. He was an all-Irish man, and he loved the family. And so...
He loved your family.
Yes, yeah, he came and visited us and all that. And so while I was in Gooding, our bishop came to visit us during confirmation time, and I went to confession, and I told him that I would like to get back in full swing with the Catholic Church again, and therefore wanted to get married in the church, and my wife had consented to do that, and so he talked to Father Cynic to make sure that we get that done real quick. And within 30 days, we were married in the Catholic Church.
Oh, isn't that wonderful?
You know,
okay.
I mean, the doors are completely open again, and it's nice to be back in good full swing with God.
Well, my next question is, seeing that you lead in by saying, I'm back in full swing at that time, you told me, let me have a gift. It's a prayer you say to yourself. Let me have a gift to let me know of your glory, God. And then you said, I never say no. I wonder what you mean by that, because I know that in 1981, you become a delegate for the state of Idaho to the National AA Conference. Have I got that right?
Yes. Yeah, well, you know, what happened is I got really involved in AA, and I served in other committees, and one of them was, you know, going to prisons, you know, being the head of the committee to take meetings into prisons, and then serving the community, and then, you know, represented the state of Idaho, you know, in the national at the national convention. To be even more specific, but not to mention, of course, breaking any confidences, but what you did is you brought best practice into the prisons in terms of being able to Yes.
systematize, right?
Yeah, we set up the guidelines on how to go in, you know, who could go in and who could not go in, and, you know, so that not everybody just comes in and out. Okay?
Yes, yes, yes.
And since then, you know, the corrections facilities develop guidelines again, so that more stringent guidelines yet.
Yes. So you were at the leading edge of this move to make everything more systematic.
Yes.
Then, aside from that, you also, in 1989, you moved back to Pocatello, and the Railroad Safety Committee becomes an important part of what you do, and nationally, actually, too.
You know, the railroad, you know, their safety is something that they really thrive on, because without safety there's nothing. Okay, so we had to, you know, change the way we did things. We had to send a message to the people that the railroad meant business when they said safety. It was not just something that you could put on the wall and say we're good at this. No, they meant business. They empowered you to make changes that you believe that were necessary.
And I understand you worked with large corporations, not just railroad people.
Yes, well, we went through several conventions. Xerox, you know, had a big convention in Dallas, and then we had another convention in Kansas City that we had to go through for DuPont, you know, and those big companies are pretty heavy into safety as well. At that time, I was also nominated for an award. I was a nominee to the John Kennefic Award, which is the highest award they give to people that get involved in safety. I was just a runner-up. I never got the award, but I was a nominee.
But you were a nominee. That's
you know, so I got to go to a convention in Omaha for that.
Other conventions that you've been to, you have been involved in youth soccer, too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And a coach.
Yes. Well, you know, my kids were a passion in my life, you know. After I got to see my kids grow up. You know, I was there in everything they did, and so they played. They swam in Gooding. We moved to Gooding and Pocatello, and they says, "Dad, we don't like to swim anymore. We want to do something that we like." I says, "Okay." So they come and they tell me that they're gonna do soccer. So one of them comes home and says, "Dad, I signed up for soccer and I signed you up. You're the assistant coach." "Oh, thank you." And so I was an assistant coach, and we take city the first year. So the high school coach calls me up and asks me to join him. So I joined the high school coach, and then you know, I was there for that year, and 24 years later, I was not only coach, but then you know, I coached Highland High School, Pocatello High School, Hawthorne Junior High, and I coached many youth teams. You know, and also administrated for Gay City for a long time, and for the state of Idaho. I was the competitive director for soccer for 2 years. I got to go to Hawaii for that, and so it's, you know, it's been, you know, busy doing.
Yes, you have, and you've been busy on one side, that's the community side, and we haven't talked at all about the church side.
Oh.
Now I would like you to talk about St. Paul's.
Oh, St. Paul's was a great place. You know, I met some really neat people there. You know, Deacon Mel Hardy, he was an inspiration to me because, you know, the way he led his life, and that, you know, made me want something there. You know, because he walked the talk. I mean, he just walked his life as a Christian life was really good, you know, and so I was really glad to have met him.
And the program was called?
And then we started a program called Renew 2000, you know, where we had meetings at people's houses, and we discussed our way of life. We discussed, there was a little workshop book that you had to follow, and with a lot of good questions and that was going to be the thing to do, but then something else happened.
What happened?
Well, they decided not to follow that format for whatever reason.
Okay.
You know, and
So
then,
it was a sort of home study program, but
well, yeah, it was you form little groups, and then you meet at people's homes.
yes,
You
yes,
know,
yes.
and that only lasted like 2 years.
2 years is a good time for small groups.
Yeah.
Well, I understand that you were also the president of the parish council at this time?
No, well, you know, I was at the council. I became a member of the council at St. Paul's, and then they were in the process of combining all three parishes, and at that time we elected 3 members from each parish, you know, St. Paul's, St. Joseph's, and St. Anthony's, and we became the first council for the Holy Spirit. Okay, so it wasn't even named Holy Spirit yet.
Explain to the people who may not know what this process was all about.
Well, this process was, you know, they had a vitality study a couple of years previous, saying that the number of priests in this community was going to be, well, in the state of Idaho, was going to be not have enough priests to be at to have enough priests in Pocatello. At that time, we had two resident priests and one that was retired, and then at another time we had 3 priests, 2 in Pocatello and 1 in Chavica, St. Paul's. And so the vitality study showed that we were not going to have enough priests, and so we need to come up with a solution. And one of them was to unite all 3 parishes and make one. And then, you know, build a big church, and then we all meet in one place. That way the priests didn't have to go from one place to the other, and therefore everybody's needs will be met.
So that's the combining of the three parishes
Yes.
into one big church,
Yes.
which is now called Holy Spirit Catholic Community.
Yeah, about 6 months after we got together, you know, he became the Holy Spirit. Yeah.
Carlos, you, aside from overseeing this process of pulling three different churches into one bigger parish, you also have been busy with several other activities. I notice there's a catechism book and a workbook on the table. There's a Bible study book on the table. And I also know that you're very devoted to the Blessed Virgin, and in that there's rosary practice.
You know, about 3 years ago, we had there was going to be a catechism workshop over in Burley, and so several of us went to Burley to this workshop, you know, so we can learn.
Is that this workshop on leadership?
No, the workshop
that's this.
on the catechism.
Okay.
And so when we got over there, we learned all about this catechism, and you know, for Catholics of the United States, okay. And it was going to be in Spanish. So when I came back from that workshop, we had rosary over at my house, and I told them that we needed to do something as a community. And
as the Spanish speakers community, yes.
And so they said, okay, one of the things that we need to do is devote 10 weeks, you know, and make a commitment to attend this.
10 weeks for catechism, study of catechism.
Yeah, to break it 10-week segments, okay?
Okay, yes.
And so we went 10 weeks, then we rested a few weeks, then we went another 10 weeks. We broke it into 4 sections.
That's a 40-week study period?
Yes. So it lasted 2 years. But, you know, it paid off because we finished.
And also you have a very, very solid community, a core group, don't you?
Yes. You know, we did then and we still do, you know, where, you know, there was a minimum of 12 people at every session, so that was good. The diocese provided us with tapes and material to hand out, you know, before every session and after every session. So
talk to me about this one. This was in Weezer?
No, this one here was in St. Paul's. That's Call to Lead. Call to Lead.
So you're not just left swinging. You get some training.
Oh yes. Well, you know, even for everything else, I mean, the railroad gave me a lot of training as a facilitator.
Yes.
You know, I mean, when I got involved in the safety committees at the railroad, they sent me to Omaha for 2 weeks to learn how to facilitate. And so
this would have been a piece of cake for you.
Well, this was afterwards, yes.
Yeah, so you already were very comfortable with that.
Well, you know, the thing about it is faith gives you courage, okay? You know, you have the faith, you can do anything you need to do. You know, I mean, and I want you to understand that all these things that I was doing, it wasn't in easy times. You know, at the same time that I was elected as delegate, my oldest daughter was in an accident where she became paralyzed from the waist down. Okay, so my wife had to be in Salt Lake for almost 3 months, and I had to be here with the rest of the children. You know, and then at the same time I was going to an electronics technician school over in Salt Lake that the railroad provided for us. And so, you know, being busy is how God wanted me.
Carlos, what is your daughter's name?
Angela.
Is Angela the daughter who accompanied you to the Called and Gifted workshop that you went through?
Yes.
And how is Angela today? What's going on with her?
She's doing good. She lives in Boise right now. She's about ready to get her master's degree and become a counselor. And she wants to wants to become a counselor, counseling children, yeah, and disabled children. So I hope she can make it.
I'm sure she will if she's anything like her papa. We're running short of time.
Okay.
I want you to talk about this.
Okay, that was a retreat we had last November.
And that's the banner that's
the
up
banner
here.
that was made. Yeah, you know, the whole community got together saying that we needed a retreat. You know, because they wanted a variation of things, and in a retreat, you learn more about your faith, and they come together, and we had a lot of fun in that retreat. There was a little over 100 people that attended that retreat, you know, and which was nice because we had people from Idaho Falls, Blackfoot, and Pocatello, and American Falls come, and so, you know, it was good. You know, we met with Christine King
From the diocese.
In August, and asking her that we needed a retreat, and she says, well, you guys come up with a date and we'll make it happen.
And who was the priest who was the sponsor?
Father Camacho. Well,
Father Camacho.
Yeah, he came over, but the sponsor was Father John.
Father John Wooster,
yeah,
our own pastor.
Yeah, he says, yeah, go ahead, do whatever you guys need to do. And so we, you know, so Christine wanted some volunteers, and I says, yeah, I'll help you. He says, well, I need a coordinator. And I says, I guess I'll help you. No, but, you know, it's been good, you know, to help do things here.
I don't mean to cut you off, but we're running short, and I know that you are planning an extended trip to Mexico very shortly with you and your beautiful bride of 40 years. I'd like to know what is in store for you. How will you use your Catholic faith and everything that's happened to you?
Okay, well, you know, the nice thing about our faith, in order to keep our faith, we have to share it. You know,
what do you have in mind, Carlos?
You know, God has given me a lot of things. You know, I know how to minister soccer. I know how to get people together, and so, you know, when I get there, right now, I'm planning on working with the youth. You
with
know,
Mexican youth?
Yes, maybe forming a little Mexican, maybe soccer league, or I don't know. You know, but I go see the priest over there, and I go see the community, see what we can do.
Just make sure you come back.
Oh, yes.
To Idaho.
Well, you know, my children and my grandchildren will bring me back. You know, because they will be here, and you know, in November we're gonna be blessed with another grandchild. You know, so
congratulations.
My youngest daughter is gonna have a baby in November. So my wife already told me we'll be back. So yes, you know. So I think, you know, having an open mind, you know, gives me the ability to come and go and do whatever God puts in front of me. You know.
And do you pray for advice?
Well, no, I pray for courage. You know.
Carlos, we have to stop now.
Okay.
I want to thank you so much for being generous and forthcoming about all the things that have happened to you in your faith journeys. So I thank you very much. And I want to thank all of you who are viewing. And I'm just wondering, if people want to reach you, Carlos, what do you have a email?
They can send, you know, reach me. My email address is dulcemundo@aol.com, but it's misspelled. You gotta spell it with an SC rather than CE.
Okay. So, thank you. Thank you for watching. Please catch us again soon, or as soon as you can. I'm Diane Nisada. On behalf of Father John Wooster, I want to say, please God, rain your blessings down on all of us everywhere, each and every one of us.